When dealing with a narcissistic woman, the first step is to dismantle the illusion of her superiority. Narcissism thrives on hierarchy, on the unspoken agreement that she is elevated and you are beneath. This imbalance allows her to look down on you, to believe she has the authority to define your worth. But the truth is, superiority is nothing more than a construct of the ego, an image projected outward to cover an inner emptiness. When you calmly tell her, respect is mutual, not one-sided, you're not just stating a boundary, you are piercing that illusion. You refuse to play the role she has assigned you, and in that refusal, you withdraw the very energy that sustains her dominance. This is not about anger or aggression. In fact, it requires composure, because what unsettles the narcissist most is not a loud rebellion, but the quiet refusal to submit. It is the stillness of someone who knows their value and will not allow it to be dictated. In that moment, you step out of the script she has written for you and assert authorship over your own identity. And once you do that, she can no longer look down on you, because you've made it impossible. True respect is never demanded. It is only ever mirrored. Boundaries are not walls of hostility. They are expressions of self-respect. When you state clearly, that behavior is not acceptable to me, you are not attacking her. You are affirming yourself. A narcissistic woman feeds on blurred lines, on the uncertainty of those around her. If you hesitate, if you soften your words to keep the peace, she interprets it as permission to continue. But when you speak with authority, when your tone carries the weight of conviction, you interrupt her pattern. You remind her that there are limits she cannot cross without consequence. This is not about trying to change her nature. It is about protecting your own. A boundary is a declaration of where you end and where she begins. It is a philosophical statement as much as a practical one. I am sovereign over my life, and you cannot govern it. Strangely enough, such clarity often unsettles her more than anger ever could, because it denies her the chaos in which she thrives. Do not underestimate the power of a single sentence spoken with unwavering certainty. It transforms the dynamic entirely. And once you've drawn that line, you discover something profound. Strength is not in resistance alone, but in the courage to define your own space. One of the most insidious tactics of a narcissistic woman is her ability to distort reality. She will twist facts, rewrite events, and subtly shift blame until you begin questioning your own memory and perception. This psychological maneuver is designed to destabilize you, because once you doubt yourself, you become easier to control. The antidote is not to argue endlessly, nor to try to persuade her to see the truth. She never will, because the lie serves her. Instead, you reclaim your ground by calmly rejecting the false narrative, saying, "That's not what happened, and I won't accept your version as fact," is an act of psychological liberation. It signals that you are anchored in reality, and you refuse to abandon it. What matters here is not volume, but clarity. You don't need to defend every detail. You only need to affirm your truth with quiet conviction. In that moment, you deny her the ability to play the role of author in your story. You restore authorship to yourself. And when you stand unwavering in your truth, you discover something vital: reality does not belong to the one who shouts the loudest, but to the one who refuses to surrender it. A narcissistic woman seeks to bind your sense of self to her approval, as if your worth exists only in the reflection of her gaze. This is the essence of her control. If she can convince you that her validation defines you, then she can elevate or diminish you at will. But the moment you say, "I define myself, not you," you sever that chain. You reclaim the inner authority that she tries to appropriate. Independence of identity is one of the most powerful forces a person can embody, because it cannot be bought, flattered, or broken. True independence is not defiance for its own sake. It is the recognition that your essence exists beyond another's opinion. When you affirm this, her attempts to belittle you lose their grip, because you no longer measure yourself against her distorted standards. You cease being a pawn in her game and become a player in your own. And it is precisely this independence that unsettles her, because it reveals her power was never real. It was borrowed from your compliance. Once you stand rooted in self-definition, you discover a liberating truth. No one can take from you what you no longer seek from them. The narcissistic woman wears a mask of control, a carefully crafted image of superiority and flawlessness. She projects this facade not only to you, but to the world, because she fears the exposure of her own vulnerability. Yet the mask is fragile, and when you speak truth into that illusion, you weaken it. Saying something as simple as, "Everyone has flaws, and pretending otherwise doesn't make them disappear," is not an attack. It is a mirror. It reflects back to her what she works tirelessly to hide: her humanity. What unsettles her is not the statement itself, but the fact that you refuse to be hypnotized by the performance. You see behind the curtain, and in doing so, you shift the balance of power. The illusion only works if you accept it as real. Once you expose it, even subtly, you remove the mystique she relies on to dominate. This is the psychological equivalent of turning on a light in a dark room. The shadows cannot withstand it. And in that light, a deeper truth emerges. Control is never strength. It is merely fear in disguise. When you reveal this, you dismantle the illusion, and she can no longer command the stage. In the end, the most powerful thing you can say to a narcissistic woman is a declaration of your own inner strength. When you calmly state, "You don't have the power to break me. I know who I am," you affirm something she cannot touch. Narcissists thrive on creating fractures in others, searching for the cracks where doubt and insecurity live. But when you stand rooted in self-knowledge, there is no entry point for her manipulation. This is not arrogance. It is the quiet recognition that your value is not negotiable. Such words carry a deeper weight than defiance, because they speak to something beyond the ego. They speak to the soul. To know who you are, to truly embody it, is to step outside her game entirely. She cannot diminish what you have already accepted within yourself. And in that moment, you become untouchable, not because you fight harder, but because you no longer grant her the authority to define your reality. The lesson here is simple yet profound. Strength is not the absence of wounds, but the refusal to let them dictate your identity. And once you claim that truth, no one, not even a narcissist, can ever look down on you again.